At number 10, Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner has been having a rough time lately. He's pretty much disappeared from the media and people want to know what's up. Well, essentially, he's been blacklisted from Hollywood because no one really wants to hire him. Since finishing up his time in the Twilight Saga, Taylor hasn't seen very much success. After the franchise ended, Taylor went looking for work, and at first people were ready to offer him some good Hollywood parts, and he was still a big name in the industry after he got so much fame playing his character Jacob Black in the Twilight movies, but soon Hollywood executives realized that he just wasn't the powerhouse that they were expecting. The first few movies he starred in tanked at the box office, and between this and his high asking salary, no one was really keen on taking a chance on the actor. In the years since, he's appeared on some TV shows like Scream Queens, but other than that, we haven't really heard much from him. Taylor has pretty much disappeared into the abyss, and there's no telling whether or not he will ever return. At number 9, Lea Michele. TV and Broadway actress Lea Michele had a tough time last year as she was on the receiving end of a lot of backlash. The criticism she faced last year came from her on-set behavior and the allegation made against her of bullying her co-stars. The first to come forward about Lea's bad attitude was her former Glee co-star Samantha Ware, who responded to her message about George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. Samantha tweeted saying, quote, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? Cause I'll never forget. I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would in my wig," amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood, end quote. This prompted other people who have worked with her to come forward about their experiences working with Lea, and because of all the backlash she got, she was subsequently dropped by her sponsor HelloFresh because they didn't want to support her past actions and didn't want to align themselves with her. Now Hollywood knows about Lea's poor behavior and will probably disappear from the spotlight soon because of it. Now before I continue on with the video, I'd just like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video because we would really appreciate your support. At number 8, Hartley Sawyer. After all the scandals we've seen in the past, I'm sure we all know that sometimes your tweets can come back to bite you, and for actor Hartley Sawyer, his past tweets really went to town on him. After some of his past racist, sexist, and plain offensive tweets came to light earlier last year, Hartley was fired from his role as Ralph Dibny on the CW show The Flash. This comes after the Black Lives Matter movement began to gain traction last year, and so in a show of accountability and respect for those he offended, the showrunners released a statement informing fans of the show of their decision to let Hartley go, where they said, quote, "In regards to Mr. Sawyer's post on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks go against our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workplace," end quote. Since being fired from the show, Hartley's career has taken a huge hit since his actions have been brought to light, and he will definitely have a hard time finding work since he's considered blacklisted. We haven't heard much from him since the scandal happened, and that's probably because he's already disappeared. At number 7, Lori Loughlin. Actress Lori Loughlin is known for her roles on Full House and Fuller House, but now she's known as yet another celebrity who's been blacklisted from Hollywood. Lori was involved in a college admissions scandal where she bribed college recruiters in order to get her daughter Olivia Jade into a good college. Well, after investigations unfolded and court proceedings went on, Lori was subsequently sentenced to 2 months in jail for her crimes. For a few months, she disappeared from Hollywood and the news as she spent her time behind bars. She began her sentence in late October, whereas her husband was sentenced to 5 months in jail. Now, coming out of the scandal, Lori will be hard-pressed to find work ever again. We already got a taste of Lori disappearing for a while serving her time, so I'm sure she'll stay gone from Hollywood for the foreseeable future. At number 6, Stassi Schroeder. After facing accusations of racist actions, reality star Stassi Schroeder, one of the cast members of the Vanderpump Rules, has been blacklisted from reality TV and has already begun facing the consequences. This all started after Stassi was part of a fake police report that alleged that one of her fellow cast members, Faith Stowers, was guilty of a crime that she didn't commit. Faith, being the only black cast member on the show, was accused of robbing men in LA. Stassi accused Faith of this crime after seeing a picture of the alleged criminal and saying that this person in question looked like Faith because they were both black. Stassi was later removed from the show for her actions, and as a result of her blacklisting and tarnished reputation, her podcast Straight Up was removed from all platforms. Looks like Stassi's already disappearing, and it might not be too long before she's gone for good. At number 5, Jussie Smollett. Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett has been in some hot water for a while following his scandal after he was caught making false police statements about an alleged hate crime against him. In January 2019, Jussie, who was openly gay, claimed that he was attacked by a group of people wearing masks who put a noose around his neck and shouted, "This is MAGA country." Well, after a police investigation ensued, they found that the claim was fake and that Jussie did all of this because he was unhappy about his salary from Empire. The charges against him for making a false report were eventually dropped, but similar charges emerged last year, and Jesse was indicted. As a result of the scandal and his crimes, Jesse was fired from Empire and has struggled to make things work for him in the industry since then. There was even a call to blacklist him from the entire industry, but maybe that formality isn't necessary since no one wants to work with him right now over fears of bad publicity. At number 4, Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry made headlines last year after they announced that they were stepping away from royal duties and would be splitting their time between the US and the UK. Meghan already faced a lot of backlash and scrutiny by the British people and members of the royal family, so in a way she was blacklisted from this society. Her relationship with the royals and her presence in the media, as well as details from her past, made a lot of people hold aggressions towards her. As a result of these circumstances, she and Harry, as well as their son Archie, took a step back from the public eye and their senior duties as members of the royal family. Meghan sort of disappeared from the public as a result, and though this is exactly the outcome that she hoped for, I'm sure it isn't easy being watched the way that she and the rest of the royal family is, so I applaud her for doing what is best for her and her family. At number 3, Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson has been blacklisted in Hollywood for a while now because of his racist and anti-Semitic remarks, as well as other allegations of misconduct that he's faced. Mel has mostly been out of the Hollywood spotlight in recent years, but last year he faced more allegations of discrimination by actress Winona Ryder. She spoke out in an interview about an encounter that she had with him where he called her a, quote, oven dodger, and made more insensitive remarks. In the interview, she went into more detail about some of the offensive things that Mel has said in regards to the LGBT community and people of Jewish faith. This prompted Mel to get cancelled again, though it really didn't make much difference since he's already so hated in Hollywood. These allegations are really nothing new for Mel, and so he stayed away from the spotlight, but I'm sure he won't be coming back because things like this just keep on happening. At number 2, Tekashi 6ix9ine. Rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine was seen as a snitch and a snake for a while after testifying against gang members and supportedly throwing people under the bus in order to get a lighter jail sentence. Well, now that he's out and making music again, he's feeling the repercussions of his tattered name in the media, as well as his time behind bars. Tekashi is now saying that he's been blacklisted by the music industry after his new music wasn't promoted on any streaming platforms and wasn't featured in any playlists. After dropping his album Tattletales, he wasn't met with the same praise that he would have expected, and so after realizing that his music has been in a way shadow banned, he disappeared from the spotlight temporarily since his career wasn't doing so well. Tekashi is known for trolling online, so when fans noticed the rapper had gone MIA, they were a little bit concerned, but none more concerned than the rapper himself because he was afraid for his career. He seems to be slowly bouncing back now, but he still has a little ways to go yet before he can really pick up to where he was before his stay in prison. And finally, at number 1, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp had quite the year in 2020 and not in a good way. As you may all know, Johnny and his ex Amber Heard were all over the news last year concerning Johnny's libel case with the Sun publication and their labeling of Johnny as a wife beater. After the verdict came through on this case, awarding the victory to the Sun, Johnny started feeling the repercussions of this loss. Though the world found out that Johnny was in fact a victim of violence rather than the one who was inflicting the violence, movie studios and executives still started letting Johnny go regardless. First, he was let go from his role as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts films, and then we learned that he'd been blacklisted from Disney for a while as they refused to cast him in future productions. Now Johnny is susceptible to disappearing from Hollywood because of a loss of work. Though many of his fans are looking to keep his career alive and advocate for him, as far as Hollywood is concerned, he's too much of a risk, so unfortunately it's not looking good for the actor. But I, as well as many others, are optimistic that he will definitely come out on top in the end.
Hollywood is a place that is all about their image. The second that a celebrity slips up bad enough, they will most definitely end up on this secret blacklist that Hollywood keeps. A blacklist is basically just a list of people that should be avoided or distrusted when it comes to working with them. It's an important social practice and one that's been around long before Hollywood. When humans lived in tribes, we just referred to the blacklist as excommunicated. Welcome to Top 10 Beyond the Screen. I'm your host Johnny Rogers, and before we kick this video off, if you want to see more videos about what Ellen's been up to lately, just tap that playlist in the corner of your screen. Also, if you don't want to miss another daily video from us, make sure you tap that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Now, without any further delay, let's get right into today's list of the top 10 celebrities blacklisted from Hollywood 2020. In at number 10, Chris D'Elia. Actor and comedian Chris D'Elia just recently was part of the Netflix show called You. In the show, he played a comedian that was also grooming underage girls. Turns out he had just been method acting the whole time. D'Elia has been accused of grooming and attempting to solicit nude photographs from underage women. girls, I guess. A woman named Simone tweeted out a screenshot of her alleged interactions with Chris, which began a thread of other women sharing their interactions with him as well. The stories are all pretty horrific considering that these girls were all underage at the time that Chris had sent messages to them, and then on top of that, people close to him like Whitney Cummings have even spoken out against him. With the Me Too movement in full force, you'll be hard pressed to have any female actor, or anyone for that matter, wanting to work alongside him ever again. In at number 9, Danny Masterson. Danny, who is best known for his role as Hyde on That 70s Show, is recently charged with 3 counts of I don't even know if I could say that. The R word. So far, there have been 3 victims that have stepped forward with separate incidents that occurred between 2001 and 2003. All the alleged crimes are believed to have taken place at his home in the Hollywood Hills. If convicted, he's looking at a sentence of 45 years to life in a state prison. For those of you who don't know, Danny is also involved with the Church of Scientology. After the charges were laid against him, Liam Remini took to Twitter with joy that the victims of Scientology were finally being heard. This is most definitely an insinuation that the church had previously covered up what Danny had been doing in order to protect their image. Although we cannot confirm these claims, it does seem like something that they would do. Back in 2017, he was fired from the Netflix show called The Ranch amid these allegations, and he is still denying any of the claims made by these women, but with that much heat on him, it's unlikely that his acting career will ever continue. In at number 8, Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star has always been considered a bit of a controversial figure, but when he took over the world of cosmetics, the stakes were even higher. Although he has had plenty of feuds in the past, it was his beef with Laura Lee that became the most dramatic. To make matters worse for his career, Star wore cornrows on one of his Jeffree Star cosmetic campaigns, and the general public was less than amused. Not too long after that, fellow YouTuber Thomas Halbert made a video about racism in the beauty community and alluded to Star's involvement without mentioning his name directly. Jeffree then responded with text messages that he believed would clear his name, but in return, Thomas exposed Star for blackmailing his friends, which just completely flipped the table and made it a whole new conversation about the kind of dirt that Jeffree might have on certain people. Apparently, he had actually made a compilation video of YouTubers being problematic behind the scenes and would threaten to expose them if things didn't go his way. Well, now things are definitely not going his way, and he's for sure ending up on Hollywood's blacklist. In at number 7, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen just recently has fired 3 of her most problematic producers that had allegations of abuse against them. However, I highly doubt that this action will end up redeeming her in any way whatsoever. Thanks to that Kevin Porter tweet, thousands upon thousands of people have come to the realization that Ellen certainly has a mean streak. Part of what keeps people working in Hollywood can largely be attributed to how easy they are to work with. Now, with Ellen having this long rap sheet of complaints, it's hard to imagine that Hollywood won't keep her off their blacklist of celebrities. That being said, Hollywood's blacklist is more like a timeout until the bad press blows over, and then they usually try to bring these celebrities back into the fold again. I mean, look at how off the rails Mel Gibson went, and he's still acting here and there, right? Mel Gibson's still acting, right? He did some bad stuff. In at number 6, Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett used to be known as the musician Jamal Lyon on the Fox drama series called Empire. At the start of January, he had gone to the Chicago police to report that he had been assaulted in the early morning hours. He claimed that 2 white men wearing MAGA hats attacked him in the middle of a polar vortex, I should mention that, and uttered racial and homophobic slurs at him. He then claimed that they poured bleach on him and tied a rope around his neck. Although after the police investigated the case, they found that Jussie had actually paid 2 Nigerian American brothers who worked as extras on Empire to help him stage this attack. Near the end of February, he was indicted for disorderly conduct for allegedly paying those brothers to stage the fake hate crime and therefore filing a false police report as a result. This scandal, however, ruined his chances with acting. In June of 2019, it was announced that Smollett would not be returning to the show even after his charges were dropped. Well, they reached a deal with the prosecutors, I should say. He had to pay his $10,000 bond and just do some community service, but he's on that Hollywood blacklist for sure. In at number 5, Shane Dawson. I'm sorry for dragging these people through the mud repeatedly, like Shane Dawson is a perfect scenario for this, especially for this channel. We talk about Shane Dawson all the time, but if Shane doesn't fit this list, then I don't know who else does. Shane had quite the blow up recently that led to the demise of his career on YouTube and in the world of cosmetics, and probably any potential for Hollywood. That door has been shut. After partnering up with Jeffree Star, who was just meant to be another one of his documentary vlogs, the two started causing trouble together. They manipulated Tati Westbrook into fighting with James Charles, and then plagued the victim when people found out. Then on top of that, tons of Shane's older content had come back to bite him right when all of this beauty drama started. If you want to watch a full top 10 of everything that he did that led to the end of his career, definitely check out our list on the top 10 times Shane Dawson went too far. In number 4, Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen has been branded as the queen of cancel culture. She's become well known in the Twitterverse as always taking shots at Trump and siding with far-left politics. That being said, no one is perfect, and Chrissy Teigen is no exception from this rule of being a human being. Despite being married to John Legend, Chrissy has largely been cast on that new Quibi app that is just leaking money. I mean, they are bleeding money right now. That app is brutal, and it's not going to be around for very long. Nonetheless, her reason for being sort of shadow banned or blacklisted from Hollywood flicks could be attributed to the more than 60,000 tweets that she deleted. Seems a little fishy, doesn't it? I mean, flight logs showed that Chrissy had flown on Epstein's private jet to Little St. James, so as a result, the Twitterati came for her and her past tweets. People on Twitter connected her inappropriate tweets about the show Toddlers and Tiaras to the new evidence that she had visited Epstein's Island. In a bizarre series of tweets from 2011 to 2014, Chrissy tweeted about pizza, going to jail over pizza, and how she really loves watching children, specifically little girls, doing the splits. Really, really deplorable stuff right there. And I hope she's on Hollywood's blacklist. In number 3, Jake Paul. Saying that Jake Paul is a menace to society would be the understatement of the year. This guy was even once crowned as the reality villain for the YouTube generation by the New York Times. To add to his Scarface image, if you will, was the recent raid on his home by the FBI. At just 23 years old, his YouTube channel is just filled with pure stupidity. Paul's early involvement in the Hollywood scene was with the show Bizarre Vark, but after he was fired by Disney, his life became pranks, vlogging, and jumping on news vans. The LA Times reported that his house was raided by the feds after he was found to be in direct connection with the looting investigation in Arizona. Although the police didn't come out with any stolen goods, they did find a ton of firearms. Like a ton. Including this assault rifle that was just leaned up against his hot tub. There is no doubt in my mind that Hollywood will never hire this guy again, and on top of that, he has to be blacklisted by now. In number 2, Nick Cannon. After a recent episode of Nick Cannon's podcast called Cannon's Class, Viacom CBS decided to fire him after he promoted hateful speech and spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. In response, Nick said that he doesn't condone hate speech, and his words were meant for the oppressive and racist infrastructure in America. Nick Cannon, best known for his marriage to Mariah Carey, also created the show Wild 'N Out. However, that show will be coming to an end after 15 seasons. You can tell that Nick is going to be blacklisted by Hollywood though after Viacom released this statement. While we support ongoing education and dialogue in the fight against bigotry, we are deeply troubled that Nick has failed to acknowledge or apologize for perpetuating anti-Semitism, and we are terminating our relationship with him. Last but certainly least, in our number 1 spot, Kevin Spacey. Kevin for a long time was by far the most demanded actor of his generation. Like, that's an irrefutable fact. You can just look through his history of films and be like, this guy was in everything. His library of roles was huge, and his fame made the actor seem untouchable, or at least he thought. Then an actor named Anthony Rapp came forward and accused Spacey of forcing himself on him when he was only 14 years old. Following that, 15 other men came forward accusing Spacey of a similar experience. His career was canceled at that point, but Kevin found a way to make things worse for himself. In his apology, he took a moment to come out as gay, for which the LGBTQ community denied any association. As a result of these accusations, Spacey was fired from House of Cards and was removed from the film All the Money in the World. Safe to say the only acting work he'll be doing is on his YouTube page. But there's no doubt, like most of these people, there's no doubt in my mind that we will never see Kevin in Hollywood ever again after his heinous crimes. Ever again. I took a second to think about it and I was like, no, never. That'd be wild if they let him back in. Wild.
At number 10, Piers Morgan. It is crazy to think that this person ruined their career because they didn't want to take someone's mental health seriously. TV presenter Piers Morgan had a lot to say after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's bombshell interview. The insight that this royal couple shared in the interview were full of bombshell secrets and testimonies, and also included some serious allegations as they showed the public a new part of themselves, looking deeper into the lives of Meghan and Harry. One person who relentlessly picked the couple's interview apart was Piers Morgan, and his actions on his TV program ended his career in seconds and also led to him getting cancelled online. During the interview, Meghan Markle opened up about her mental health and how it was affected being part of the royal family, saying that there was once a point after she married into the family that she wanted to take her own life. Piers spoke about this on air of Good Morning Britain and said that he, quote, didn't believe a word she said. After Piers made those harsh comments, he started to face massive backlash from all sides as people said that his comments on Meghan's mental health were diminishing and disrespectful. The studio he worked for, as well as Piers himself, started receiving harsh comments, and so Piers actually decided to leave his position at Good Morning Britain. He has since refused to apologize, and no one really wants to work with him after all of this drama, so it could be that his career is finished. At number 9, Chris Harrison. Bachelor Nation was in fury when a scandal took over the recent Bachelor season. It all started when a contestant's questionable past came to light and fans of the show started grabbing their pitchforks on Twitter demanding accountability. Now when Chris Harrison, the show's longtime host, tried to do some damage control, that's where things really got heated and it did not end well for him. When asked about the scandal involving a Bachelor contestant in an interview, Chris went on to seemingly defend this contestant where he said, quote, "We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion. Because I've seen some stuff online. This judge, jury, executioner thing. I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Until I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak, who am I to say any of this?" End quote. People found his comments to be offensive and insensitive, saying that he was too quick to defend this contestant's actions. Even though he sort of tried to justify his comments, making it so that he wasn't necessarily defending this contestant, the fans still came for blood and they got it. After everything was said and done, Chris ended up leaving the show, effectively ending his career after this one talk show interview. Now before I carry on with the list, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also maybe consider checking out my gaming channel, Viper Girl. I've got lots of fun stuff going on over there and I upload daily, so come check it out and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Sinead O'Connor. SNL is one of the most popular and successful variety/talk shows out there, and because it's so popular, things can often go wrong with so many people watching and so much on the line for people's careers. One of the biggest scandals to come from SNL is probably the one involving Sinead O'Connor and how she called out the Catholic Church during a performance in 1992 that effectively destroyed her career. On this episode, Sinead was asked to perform a few songs for her newest album at the time, and though she agreed, there was a little fine print to accompany her appearance. Sinead asked to perform a rendition of Bob Marley's song War instead of a piece from her own album. That night, she got up on stage, sang the song, changed up the context of some of the lines, and made a bold statement at the end, after she held up a photo of Pope John Paul II and tore it up in a show of defiance against the Catholic Church. She did all this as a means to raise awareness about some of the allegations that were against the Catholic Church because she had personal experience with those who were allegedly hurt by members of said church, and she wanted to fight against it. This stunt angered a lot of people because for days following the performance, NBC received thousands of angry calls condemning them for allowing something like this to happen. Other celebrities like Madonna and Joe Pesci also had some harsh words for Sinead. After that event, no one wanted to work with her ever again, and her career pretty much went down the tubes soon after. At number 7, Carmen. For people trying to make it big in Hollywood and in the music industry, the idea is to get yourself in front of as many people as possible to build up your reputation. So when you're asked to be a judge on a talk show, that is a huge deal, but only if it goes smoothly, and for the music duo Carmen, that is certainly not what happened, because after a botched SNL performance, their career was over. Carmen, though now disbanded and rebranded, was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers of a lot of popular songs like Party Rock Anthem and Super Bass. Eventually, they got a large following, leading them to getting noticed by a casting director over at SNL. They invited the duo to perform on the show, and they sang a couple songs, but after the show, when the ratings came in, it wasn't looking good for Carmen. They got some pretty harsh reviews, and this completely tanked their career. One critic even said that their performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. They were never really able to bounce back from this catastrophe of a performance, and so they eventually faded away, ending their careers. At number 6, Bill Maher. We should all know by now that language has the ability to do a lot. It can be good for when you're making positive changes, but it can also come back to bite you if you say something that isn't so nice. Some people, however, aren't very conscious of this, and their harsh and sometimes offensive language can cause them to face massive backlash and can even end their career. Take talk show host Bill Maher, for example. On his HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher, he dropped the N-word while talking to Senator Bill Sass, and as you could imagine, it did not end well for him. During his interview, the senator told Bill that he would like to invite him to Nebraska and, quote, have you work in the fields with us. To that, Bill replied, scoffing at the idea, saying, quote, I'm not a house N-word. After those words were uttered, the fury came from the public in condemning his use of that word. Bill claimed to have been using the word in a joking manner, but that still doesn't take away from the gravity of uttering that word in the first place. Bill was subsequently ripped apart by his audience and even other late-night personalities like Stephen Colbert. After this scandal, his career was never really the same because many people aren't quick to forget these things. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne found herself in some hot water earlier this year after she made some comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that not only caused her to get backlash but also lose a friend. Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Pierce's comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this frustrated Cheryl because she didn't like the comments that were being made about those involved. The two got into a very heated debate and ended with a lot of drama and sparking a conversation about Sharon's ideals. She was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about her and how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts. As a result of this, the network for their show launched an internal investigation that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. Sharon had been part of the show for so long that her firing certainly altered her career quite a lot. At number 4, Kelly Osbourne. Now, we just talked about Sharon Osbourne and her recent talk show scandal, but her daughter Kelly has also been in her fair share of controversies, including one that also happened while on a talk show that kind of ruined her career. During an episode of The View, Kelly Osbourne really missed the mark while trying to clap back at Donald Trump, and even though she was trying to diss Trump, she ended up getting in enough trouble for herself. Just shortly before this episode aired, Donald Trump, who was at the time only a presidential nominee, was saying offensive things about the Latinx community and how he wanted to deport them. I am sure we are all too familiar with this whole concept. Well, in a very poor attempt at clapping back at Trump's racist comments, Kelly said, quote, "If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" What Kelly was trying to do was defend the Latinx community, but rather than stand up for them, she ended up offending them even more, as her remarks were interpreted as saying that the Latinx community is only good for being housekeepers, as depicted in many racial stereotypes. After facing so much backlash and realizing the gravity of her words, Kelly issued an apology saying, quote, "I want to start by saying I always take responsibilities for my actions. In this particular case, I will take responsibility for my poor choice of words, but I will not apologize for being a racist, as I am not." End quote. Kelly completely missed the mark on that one, and it certainly hurt her career. At number 3, Paula Deen. At one point, we all thought that Paula Deen was just a sweet southern mom who liked butter a little too much, but after 2013, she took on a very different label as she was exposed for being pretty racist following a lawsuit that showed the world what she was like behind the scenes. After being deposed, the truth came out after Paula was asked if she had ever used the N-word, and she said yes. This certainly was not good for her image, so she went on damage control to really take the heat off her, but instead of getting things to die down faster, her appearance on the Today Show caused things to get so much worse. Instead of owning up to her actions and trying to clear her name, as most people would try to do in that kind of situation, Paula instead deflected the criticism she was facing and even voiced how shocked she was that so many people were taking offense to her actions. The fact that she didn't even take accountability for her actions rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and just ended up making the situation so much worse for her and pretty much ended her career after that. At number 2, James Corden. Recently, TV host James Corden has found himself in trouble with fans after his Spill Your Guts segment from the show started facing backlash with fans. Fans are calling for James to take accountability after he made some comments about some Asian foods that he had on the show, because some fans thought this was really offensive. Because the foods that they use in the Spill Your Guts segment are supposed to be ones that you wouldn't want to eat, the fact that some Asian foods like balut were used and called, quote, disgusting, made a lot of people take to the internet to call for accountability and an apology from James Corden. Apparently, James has been making these types of comments about a lot of different Asian dishes on a few occasions, so some people have said enough is enough, and some have even created a petition calling for the removal of the Spill Your Guts segment. Since James has been facing cancellation for this lately, do you think his career is in serious jeopardy, or do you think this will all blow over without any repercussions? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And finally, at number 1, Ellen DeGeneres. The number 1 person on this list who ruined their career on a talk show is no doubt Ellen DeGeneres. In 2020, we watched the comedian and talk show host fall rapidly from grace as allegation after allegation came out, painting Ellen as a nightmare to work with, among other things. She faced so much backlash from things like the treatment of her staff to comments about lockdown and the Black Lives Matter movement. Because of the events of last year, she lost a lot of credibility and respect in the industry, and her show lost a lot of ratings and advertisers as well. well. She really lost everything and has recently announced that her show will be ending after this last season, making it seem like her career is well and truly over.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Kanye West. After causing quite a stir in Hollywood, Kanye then went on to disappear, and everyone's been wondering where he could have taken off to. Billboard would then later publish an article that would state Kanye's former lawyers even spent months trying to track the star down, and it wasn't an easy process as Kanye had changed his phone number in the hopes of staying hidden. After being tracked down by his attorneys, they then went on to drop Kanye as a client. Just a few weeks after, Kanye would then be caught out in the public as he was spotted with a mystery woman. But the star has tried to remain out of the spotlight as much as he can. The public has since been led to assume that the real reason Kanye has gone into hiding is because of his financial woes, and he's also been running from a lawsuit that his ex-business managers have filed. Either way, it's probably best that he stays out of the spotlight at this time. Number 9. Armie Hammer. After Armie Hammer fell from grace, the former actor would disappear from the spotlight after facing some serious allegations from his former ex-girlfriends, claiming that he had these cannibalism fetishes. And there was even some accusations that Armie made unwanted gestures towards the woman. The first series of allegations were launched against the star in 2021, but until the release of the 2022 Discovery true crime docu-series House of Hammer that was released, the matters behind the accusations remained relatively quiet as the actor retreated from the spotlight following the allegations. Armie then tried to keep a low profile, and after going to rehab, it was later said that the actor was residing in the Cayman Islands alongside his estranged wife, Elizabeth Chambers, and their 2 young children. At the same time, it would also be rumored that the actor was working at a hotel on the island after he was cut off from his family's fortune. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, we have Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. From starring in many TV shows and movies to their fashion business, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen could be seen everywhere in the late 90s all the way to the early 2000s, but somewhere along the way, the twins just slowly started to disappear from the spotlight, and no one has heard a thing from the famous duo in years. Then out of nowhere in 2014, they would announce that they were retiring from acting, and they eventually launched 2 fashion lines called The Row and Elizabeth and James, which they still even own today, even following the controversies that followed the line. As in 2015, several of The Row's former interns took the company to court asking for payment for work they did on Mary-Kate and Ashley's fashion label. According to the lawsuit, The Row's interns were forced to work up to 50-hour weeks doing the same work as some of the full-time employees of their fashion line. Yet the lawsuit lead plaintiff then claimed the interns were also treated very poorly by the Olsen's company. Even with the lawsuit, there still isn't much buzz about the brand these days compared to when they first launched the companies, and that's probably because the clothes just aren't that nice, and you pay $5,000 just to wear a sheet when you can go to Walmart and buy that sheet for $5. Number 7. Cameron Diaz. Former Hollywood it girl Cameron Diaz was on the road to have a very successful career, but then out of nowhere she slowly started to disappear from the entertainment industry, and it would slowly start to happen after fans started to claim that she was actually pretty rude to interact with. While Cameron has claimed that she left Hollywood on her own terms by telling In Style in 2019, "I've given more than half of my life to the public. I feel like that's okay for me to take this time for myself." Her statement would come just after Hollywood pretty much closed their doors on her. While the star has since been enjoying her time away from the spotlight, in 2020 she did announce the birth of her daughter, and she's been focusing her free time on being an amazing mother. Number 6. Amanda Bynes. I honestly miss seeing Amanda Bynes on the big screen because as a child, I really just couldn't wait to get home to watch the Amanda Bynes Show or any of the movies she starred in like She's a Man, Sydney White, and Hairspray. Amanda was seriously one of the most talented child stars and one of Nickelodeon's best success stories, who managed to turn that into a thriving movie career. But then out of nowhere she started to struggle around 2012 after the star was charged with driving under the influence and then charged with 2 hit and runs. She would then spend 3 years under probation. Just when we thought the star was done spiraling out of control, her troubles with the law continued long afterwards, and it eventually became clear that she was suffering from some type of underlying issues like Britney Spears endured when she ended up under a conservatorship. Today it seems like Amanda is happy and back on track as she's now studying studying to be a nail tech, and shortly we should see her in the salon doing some amazing work. Number 5. Meg Ryan. At one point, Meg Ryan served up some of America's best and most memorable romantic comedies, and then one day she just seemed to disappear from the spotlight. It would all come after her marriage started to crumble, and then the headlines started to smear her name as they claimed she cheated on her husband while she was on set of Proof of Life. After the star cheated on her husband to get with Russell Crowe, she would find it really hard going forward to find work. Now, the actor wouldn't exactly disappear, but she has preferred to keep a low profile these days. And when she does work on set, most of her work is actually behind the camera as a producer and a director, which is honestly disappointing as her face deserves to be seen in front of the screen. Number 4. Drake Bell. Drake Bell used to be a major heartthrob in the 90s, but after he was accused of endangerment charges towards a younger person after a female victim claimed that she met him online and that he made unwanted advances towards her, he would then plead guilty, and every door in Hollywood would start to close the door on him. Eventually, the star would take to Instagram to address his recklessness and irresponsible text when he issued an apology to his fans, but then he also went on to claim that he wasn't telling us the claims were false, but that the state of Ohio actually proved that the claims were false. And if the claims were true, he wouldn't be at home with his wife and son. But then later, even Josh Peck would call out Drake Bell, and he would speak about their longtime feud that started when Drake called out the star for not being invited to his wedding. But pretty much, Drake then went on to say some hurtful things, and Josh even asked the star to apologize to his wife. Today, Drake has tried everything to stay away from the spotlight, but it just seems his name every now and then keeps getting smeared across the headlines. Number 3. Felicity Huffman. After the college admission scandal rocked the world largely because big-name celebrities were embroiled in the scheme, one of the most notable people caught in the falsifying documents was Felicity Huffman. And since she has avoided making public appearances, compared to other celebrities caught in the scandal, Felicity's legal woes seem to be far less severe because she took the responsibility for her actions in a guilty plea where she expressed genuine remorse. She then went on to serve 11 days of her 14-day jail sentence and paid a $30,000 fine and was required to work 250 hours of community service for paying $15,000 to save her daughter's SAT scores. After gaining sympathy from the public instead of rushing back to rebuild her Hollywood career, she has since been focused on helping others. Number 2. Lori Lolligan. Following the college admission scheme, Lori would find her name being embroiled within the mess, and with it, she would be ousted by Hallmark's parent company, Crown Media, after she was charged with conspiracy to commit mail fraud in connection with the scheme. When Lori appeared in court and was released on a $1 million bail, it would then be revealed that she and her husband agreed to pay $500,000 to guarantee that 2 of their daughters got into the University of Southern California as members of the road team, even though neither of them were athletes. The scandal would then impact Lori's career as Crown Media would announce it was cutting ties with the Full House star. Now, Lori was able to reprise her role in a Hallmark Christmas spin-off just after, but other than that, no one's been throwing roles her way, and it's probably for a good reason, as you can't cheat your way through life just because you have money. And coming in number 1 today, we have Thomas Gibson. In August of 2016, Thomas Gibson would be involved in an on-set altercation with Virgil Williams, a writer and producer of the show Criminal Minds. While Thomas was directing an episode of the show, he apparently kicked Williams and was initially suspended for 2 episodes. Thomas would then release his own statement by saying, "There were creative differences on set and a disagreement. I regret that occurred. We all want to work together as a team to make the best show possible. We always have and always will." Later that week, ABC Studios and CBS would then announce that Thomas had been ultimately fired, and it would then be stated that this wasn't his first altercation on the set, as he was even forced to attend anger management classes in the past. When the studio realized it wasn't helping, they ultimately made the decision so they could keep everyone on set safe because he just couldn't keep his hands to himself.